Good Monday evening, Beach Church. I'm going to talk about the book of Nahum, the entire thing. So, strap yourself. Don't worry. Actually, it's only 3 chapters. It's very short, and it comes right after Book of Amos, which we talked about last week. Now, Book of Nahum again is not pleasant. It is full of wrath and justice, and remarkably, Nahum's name means comfort. Now, in the book of Amos, you see both prophets are writing about divine judgment, but they're focused on different audiences. Amos condemned Israel and Judah, amongst others, but for their internal sins, their idolatry, a lot of things, calling them to repentance. By contrast, Nahum's message of righteous wrath was directed at Nineveh. Remember Nineveh? It's capital of Assyria. You might remember Nineveh from the book of Jonah. And Nineveh came to repentance. And God said, okay. And that lasted about 100 years. And then Nineveh thought that it would just be so much more fun to be violent and arrogant and hubristic and to seek God's vengeance upon themselves because apparently they had forgotten. So Nahum's message of righteous wrath was directed at Nineveh on behalf of victimized people of Judah, with no call for the unrepentant city to change. Now, here's the thing. Here's an interesting thing that I didn't get from any AI. I didn't get from any YouTube video or influencer or anything like this. But how often have any of us, or like even non-believers and so forth, if there's a God, why is there all this injustice? Why doesn't God do something about that? Why is God just letting this all happen? And they get no comfort a lot of the time. Well, I'm here to tell you that the reason why Nahum's name is justice is not justice. Nahum's name is comfort, is because here's the justice. Here's the justice that you want from God. When people see God, just laying waste to Sodom and Gomorrah and dozens of other cities and places in the Old Testament, especially, they're so liable to say, well, God is just being evil and he's just being destructive. And why is God being like that? And why would I worship a God like that? And then when there's injustice in the world, they're the first ones to say, well, God's got to do something about this. So which is it? So what we find out in Nahum from the one known as comfort is God's justice ultimately prevails for the people of Judah facing what seemed like an invincible Assyrian empire because they were bad. Nobody wanted to take on Nineveh and Assyria. Nahum provided hope that no earthly power, no matter how ruthless, is beyond God's reach. You see, God let Nineveh have its way for a while. After that 100 years, for a while, they were just being, mass executions, killing of babies, trafficking of babies. Now, does that sound like any country that those last 2 points? Because Nineveh may be more timely than it seems at first glance. With our current abortion rate and so forth, and a lot of other things. Idolatry about everything. People worship anything before they worship God. Money, fame, celebrity, whatever. A bigger following on social, whatever. But God, what Nahum is saying here is that God sees the injustice and he will hold the oppressors accountable in his own timing. And this was later proven to be true by Nineveh's dramatic fall. Also, God is a refuge for the faithful. In verse 7 of chapter 1, Nahum writes, "The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who take refuge in him." And people had to be saying, what are you talking about? Look at all of this destruction and havoc and wreckage. And well, the same awesome power that brings judgment on the wicked is also a secure refuge for the righteous, offering hope in times of turmoil. So that's really all that it's about. Like I said, it's very short. It's 3 verses, three chapters, but still very, it goes by very quickly. Just remember next time that you're uncomfortable because you're seeing how much vengeance and wrath that God is unleashing on some poor innocent country, that maybe they're not so poor and innocent. Maybe there's a reason why God is doing all of that, and maybe it's something to rejoice in and to get comfort from, that ultimately in God's perfect timing, which is not our timing. How many heroes in the Bible got their reward because they were waiting? They were patient. So sometimes you got to wait. A lot of times you got to wait. Sometimes you got to go through suffering while you wait. But Nahum's name is comfort. So remember that, because there's not going to be a whole lot of talking about Nahum. These minor prophets, they don't get enough of the share of the limelight in most churches. But here it is. Jimmy has me reading about Nahum. So be blessed. Know that you're blessed that we have a church that will talk about Nahum, even though it's not an easy section of the Bible to get through. But there's a message here of comfort and of justice. And that's what it's all about, folks. And somewhere in there, there's messianic implications. It's past the 23rd of September, so I guess we're still here. But someday we will join Jesus up in the clouds. And you know that's coming too. But that's not on our timetable. That's on God's. And only God knows the day and the hour. God the Father. All right, love you folks, and I hope that was useful to you, and I'll see you